Welcome to Healing Hearts. I am Rakaya Gibson, and today we have a special guest, Jennifer Sarmento of Kyle's Heart Foundation. We are raising awareness for sudden cardiac arrest and the process that moms go through after losing their beloved child. Remember to share this video with someone who can benefit and subscribe to our channel and hit the bell for notifications.
I remember even still being in the hospital, I knew I wanted to do something for Kyle. I didn't know what it meant, but I remember telling my husband and my daughter, this isn't the end of his journey. This isn't, maybe physically this is the end of his journey, but his life isn't ending in this hospital room. I'm not going to allow that. And I didn't know what that meant. We were still there, but I knew that I was going to do something. And then, once I found out about sudden cardiac arrest and all those things, it just kind of a light bulb went off, and I was like, this is it. I know this information. I can't not share it with people, and that it's much more common and that kind of thing. And for me, I said earlier, my energy, right? We have our mom energy that we put towards our kids, so that's where I put my energy, my love and energy for Kyle into the foundation, and that helps me be connected to him in another way. I mean, I had a very close relationship with him, but it just keeps me connected to him and lets me, continue his life, really. But yeah, it definitely has helped me find a passion and a purpose that I hadn't had before. And I truly feel like that's Kyle's gift to me, to continue doing what we're doing, even though he would hate being the center of attention for all this. We joke about that a lot. His pictures out and everything, and he's like, Mom, I can hear him like complaining, but he would know that what we're doing is important. And so that's what motivates me. That's what gets me out of bed every day, even with what's going on. I'm constantly thinking about things that we can do once this is over, how we can, continue doing our heart screenings or doing what we're doing, kind of thing. So
you said something that stood out. You said that you found a passion and a purpose that you didn't have before. And I feel that way. Talk to me a little bit about that. Like, how is this a passion and purpose on a whole nother level than what you ever had before?
I think, I've had I have a job, and, I enjoy my job, but it's not my passion, right? It's what I do or what I get paid for, but it's not who I am. My children I'm their mom. That's my first and most important role, right? And I've always been involved in giving back and that kinds of things, and I've always been one of those moms, and like so many other parents out there, super involved with my kids. And I knew that I was so involved, and I didn't know about cardiac arrest, that I couldn't not do something. And I think that's what fueled my passion, because I couldn't possibly think of somebody else in my community losing their Kyle, when he was seemingly healthy. So that's what drives me. And I feel like that's my purpose, is helping people know about sudden cardiac arrest and know the dangers of it and the symptoms or the, warning signs and all that stuff. But it just, I don't even know how to explain it. It's just put a fire under me that before I felt like I was just kind of just going along in our day-to-days. And now I feel like with Kyle, I'm making a difference, even if it's just one person, it's so worth it, And so that's what just motivates me and my husband and my daughter to do what we're doing. Sometimes it's unreal to me that he's even gone. We're just a little over 2 years since he passed. And sometimes it's, something will happen in the day and I'm like, oh, Kyle would like this, or Kyle, and I want to almost send him a message or something, and then it hits me. But other days I'm okay, but I definitely think this time makes you think more about it. I wonder what he would think about what's going on right now in the world, or, all this craziness and uncertainty going on. But, it's definitely a journey, the grief. I definitely see it's changed over time for me. That pain and that heartache will always be there, that he's gone. But how I deal with it has been a little bit different for me. Just in the fact that I have to stay, like I said, I have to stay busy. I'm a busy person. So, but hanging in there. It's a people say day by day, but I don't even think it's day by day. I think it's minute by minute. It's hour by hour, because one day you can be fine and something triggers you and it sends you just into that deep, dark grief for a while. And I've had many of those days where you're like, wow, I'm actually pretty good today. And then something, a memory or a picture or a song or anything just will trigger you, and it just sends you into this really sadness. So it's it's a journey, right? A lifelong journey. So yeah.
Yeah, I get it with that one day at a time. And sometimes people say that to you as if that's supposed to comfort you. But I remember one day waking up and I was just so pissed off that, oh, here it is again, one day at a time. I have to find the strength to make it through one day again, one day at a time. And it's like, when am I going to be able to get up and just be able to breathe and not have to muster up so much strength to make it through just one day?
Right.
But then other days it'll be kind of like a comforting, calming thing that it's okay. I just have to deal with today. So every day is different. And like you said, every moment is different. Like I woke up this morning heavy, and, I've learned to just kind of lean into it, let it be. And eventually I can sometimes wiggle my way out of it, but sometimes it lasts. That darkness just lasts for a few days before I'm able to breathe again.
Yeah, for sure. I think realizing that the grief has to just do whatever it needs to do, and letting it happen is a very freeing thing, instead of trying to fight it, or, if you need to cry, you need to cry. If you need to scream, you need to scream. If you want to be pissed off, you need to be pissed off, right? And it's okay. There's no right or wrong way to do it. Everybody's got their own process. And people say to me sometimes, how are you? And I'll go, I'm okay right now. That's all I can tell you. I'm okay right now.
And to me, okay is kind of like our language for this is one of those better days. If we can muster up the strength to say, okay. I remember last week I texted someone and I said, I'm okay. And she's like, just okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, just okay.
Yeah, that's a good day for us, right? If we're okay. Yeah,
exactly.
I have found that people, when you meet somebody and, you get that generic, oh, how are you? And you go, oh, good, how are you? I can't even say, oh, good, I'm good anymore. And I didn't even do it consciously, but I changed it to, I'm okay, how are you? I very rarely ever say I'm good anymore, because I'm not. Part of my life is missing,
Yeah.
But it's, there's so many different layers to it that people don't even understand.
They really don't. They really don't. And I don't begrudge them for that, but I think
absolutely.
as a society, I think that people do, in general, people do a disservice, I think, to people who are grieving. And I think that there's a lot of literature, there's a lot of books, there's a lot of information out there that is available for people to learn a little bit more about it. But it's something that we kind of put to the back of our minds, this whole grief process, and we do what's always been done. Which is the cliches, which is being there for the first 2 weeks or so, and then the world moves on with their lives, but we're still stuck here.
Yeah, for sure. When I think losing a child, right, is not, we all were raised that, our children would bury us, we would be the ones going and they would be the ones dealing with it, not the other way around. And so it's kind of out of the life sequence, right? And so it's difficult for people to deal with that and, not know how to deal with you, right? Because they think, well, gosh, that could happen to you, that could happen to me, which is true, right? Anybody could be in our shoes. Wouldn't want them to be. I wouldn't want that on anybody. And for a while, I used to find that I used to get upset if people would say, like losing a parent, oh, that's the worst pain you could ever go through. And I think, no, that's not. I've lost a parent. I've lost my father. That's not the worst pain you can go through. But then I realized that to them is the worst pain that they can ever go through. I wouldn't want anybody to feel this intense grief that you have to feel when you lose a child, right? And so I have found that I don't begrudge those people anymore either, because that's their own experience, right? To them, that is the worst loss. But you can't explain this to anybody that hasn't been through it, that it's a much different grief than anything you've ever experienced.
So what has helped you the most with your grief process? I think last week you said you had like a grief support group. Have you been doing that for some time?
Yeah. I know myself pretty well, and I knew if I didn't jump in right away, I'd get in that deep, dark hole and not be able to get myself out. And so I found a counselor, grief counselor, very quickly. I think the first week we were home after the hospital, I had made an appointment to go talk to her. And so I see her once a week, and now we're doing like every 2 weeks, but she's also a parent who's lost a child. So she gets it. And so for me, you know, when I say something, because at the beginning I kept going, is this my grief that's talking, or is this me? Like what I had a hard time differentiating what was still Jennifer and what was the grief Jennifer, you know what I mean? So was it my, you know, like if I get mad at somebody or upset about something, it was like, was that my grief causing me to get upset, or is that something legitimately to get upset about? I questioned a lot of that stuff. So she's really helped me just deal with it and be like, you know, there's no wrong or right way to do it. And talking to you or talking to other people, like you don't feel alone. Right. And so I think for me too, when this happened, I didn't know anybody that had lost a child to sudden cardiac arrest. I hadn't heard of it. And so that was a very lonely, isolating feeling for me for a while. And then once I realized that it was actually much more common and I started to actually find other people, you don't feel so alone. And so I think that's helped me a lot because I didn't know anybody, you know. So I think that's helped me a lot. But yeah, I stay active with our foundation and with just grief counseling and talking to people. I like to talk to people, and I'm pretty social anyway. So that's helped me a lot.
Yeah. I think that, like what you said, with finding other people that you can relate to, even aside from sudden cardiac arrest, just for me, connecting with other moms who have lost children has helped me a lot. I remember when it first happened, one of the first things I did was Google like parents who lost children, because I felt so alone, and I felt like this was something that surely wiped people out. Like if they lost a child, they probably passed away shortly thereafter.
Right.
It's always been something that I felt completely alone with, and didn't know how a person could possibly make it through something like this. Yeah. And then it was when I connected with other people and I see that, oh, well, okay, she's 2 years down the road, or, oh, well, she's 5 years down the road. And I've even met someone who's 30 years down the road. Sometimes that's frightening to me because technically, I remember just thinking at the beginning, I didn't want to live that much longer. You know, I don't want to have to think about living 30 years without my child.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember being, we were still in the hospital with Kyle, and we had made the decision to do organ donation. And so the organization that handles ours, they actually give you a case worker, works with you, and they coordinate the whole thing. It's a very long process. And so one night I was in Kyle's room and she came to me and said, "Can I talk to you?" And I said, "Sure." And she said, "I want to share something with you." And I said, "Okay." And she said, "I lost my son 20 years ago." And she said, and I think about this woman all the time, she said, "I just want you to know that even though this isn't the life that you thought you were going to have, it doesn't mean eventually it can't be a good life." And that has stuck with me like for so much, because that was the first thing, first person to come up to me and say that. I know we're still in the hospital with Kyle. I mean, we weren't even gone yet, but I think about her a lot. And that has helped motivate me that, yes, this isn't the life journey I thought I was going to be on, but it doesn't mean, and she even said, she goes, it could be a month, it could be a year, it could be 5 years, but eventually it will be okay, And just to see this woman who's now volunteering at these things to help families with organ donation as part of her memory for her son, and seeing that, I was like, okay, like I felt this like weight lifted off of me in some way, that I didn't know when, but eventually I would be okay. I'm not going to be the same person, but I'm going to be okay, And so that has been a big thing for me. And some days are harder than others, but that woman coming to me really impacted me a lot, for her to say that to me.
Yeah. It's important for us to share our stories, for sure, because in these, maybe a person might not be in the place to where they can really embrace everything that you're saying today, but a seed is being planted, and eventually, when the right water is there and the right sunlight is there, then it can take root and it can sprout and grow.
Right.
So it is important. I know that seeds were planted for me because when people who've been through it, would share their story, and I'm just like, I don't see myself being there, but
Yeah.
eventually, you know, you find the wherewithal. I don't want to call it strength. People always tell me I'm strong, and people say that we're strong. I don't think strength has anything to do with it, but we find the will, I want to say, the will to go ahead and continue to live and to live with purpose. So tell me a little bit about Kyle. What kind of a kid was he?
Oh my goodness. Loving, caring, kind. That's one of the reasons why we call our heart program Be Kind to Your Heart, because it honors his kindness. Very humble, funny and witty, loving, very protective of his sister and I, but also could be very impatient and a little stubborn sometimes. But he was just a wonderful human being. I was honored to be his mom. Sorry, I'm trying not to get choked up. Yeah, he was an amazing person. Sorry.
It's okay.
I was trying to get through this without crying.
What do his friends and like, what do people like? I know with Damani, people always talk about a smile, like that people remember the most. Like, what do people say the most about Kyle?
That he has a group of friends who Kyle didn't like being the center of attention. There was a big group of them. They were always off doing something. And one of his friends said to me one day, even though Kyle didn't like being the center of attention, he unknowingly was, just from his energy and his love of life and his wanting to go on adventures or do things. And he always was the person in his group of friends, or even in his family. He was friends with everybody. Even if there was some kind of disagreement with friends, he never picked sides. He was always like, they're all my friends. I love them. And he was always kind of the glue that helped some of their groups stay together. The one word that we've been told, I mean, as a parent, you want your kids to be respectful and kind. And that's what's been told to us a lot, from, the teachers to parents to everybody that knew Kyle. And he had a wonderful smile too. He had a great smile, and beautiful blue eyes that would light up a room. The day of his cardiac arrest, he actually went to his college classes. Came
he was
home
a freshman?
He was a freshman in college. Yeah. So he had just recently transferred home. He was at the University of Oregon in the fall. And then after the holiday break, he stayed home and decided to go to the community college here. And so he had just started at the new school and went to his classes that day, came home, raided our refrigerator like he always did. And no symptom of saying, hey, Mom, I don't feel well or anything. And he decided to go to a friend's house about 30 minutes away and was just going to spend the night. They were going to play some video games, nothing out of the ordinary. And he grabbed a little backpack and walked out the door and said, I love you, Mom. I'll see you tomorrow morning. And I'm okay, bud, have fun, be safe. And got a call that night. I was out with some friends walking our neighborhood and got a call from one of his friends that they found him unconscious and not breathing. He'd gotten up, they were playing video games, and he got up, we think, didn't feel well. And Kyle was the type of person, if he didn't feel well, it took a lot for him to tell you that. And so what we think is that he probably just got up to go to the restroom thinking, oh, I don't feel well. And probably collapsed soon after he got into the restroom. And he was found about 15 minutes later. His friends were like, where did he go? So they went looking for him through the house, and they found him on the floor in the bathroom, collapsed. And so he, that was when the first time I'd ever heard cardiac arrest was when we got to the hospital. But he had been down too long without any oxygen to his brain or CPR and AED being done. So 2 days after that, we were told that he wasn't going to survive. The only symptom that he had, which we didn't realize at the time, was the doctor in the hospital was asking us questions. And I just randomly said, oh, I don't know, 3 years ago, he fainted. And they were like, what? And I said, oh yeah, he came home from soccer practice and was standing in our living room and said, Mom, I don't feel well. And he collapsed. And we called 911. They took him to the emergency room. They couldn't find anything. They determined that he was probably just dehydrated, and they released him. We went to his pediatrician, got him signed off, and he was back on a soccer field within a couple of days. And we thought it was just dehydration. So I was on him all the time about drinking water. And then coming to find out that's one of the symptoms, you know, warning signs of it. But that was years before it actually happened. So yeah,
And the doctors that you took him to didn't catch that they didn't tell you that he should get more testing with his heart or anything?
No, they just said he was probably dehydrated. So they filled him with IVs. He started feeling better, and they were like, well, we probably just think he's just dehydrated, and follow up with his pediatrician. And then we went to the pediatrician, and she didn't say, oh, he should follow up with a pediatric cardiologist or anything like that. And so we just thought, okay, you know, he was busy in school. He was super active. And so, I mean, at the time it made sense to me. And so we didn't really think anything else more about it until, you know, that day in, you know, February 2018. And, you know, I still don't know if, you know, if we would have followed up with somebody, if anything would have been found, but it would have been nice to at least had that been discussed, but nobody ever said anything like that to us.
So when he collapsed in the bathroom and the guys found him about 15 minutes later, did they start CPR when they found him?
Yeah, one of his friends started CPR, and they actually did get him breathing, but he never gained consciousness. Yeah, he just had been down for too long without any oxygen, so that was.
So he was on life support for 2 days?
He was actually on life support for 6 days because of the organ donation. So we were told, so February 22nd was his cardiac arrest. And on Saturday, February 24th, we were told that he wasn't going to survive. And so we went through the process of organ donation, and that took another 4 days. So we were there on a total of 6 days.
And how many of his organs were you able to donate?
So we donated his lungs, his pancreas, his liver, and his kidneys. And so he's helped 4 people. Yeah. And that helps me, knowing that he's out there having some other new adventures. No, he played sports his whole life, and we did physicals every year. And then once he got into high school and we started doing the physicals, you know, for that, nothing. And even before he left for college to go to Oregon, we did a physical, and he was fine. That was 4 months before he passed away. So no, nothing.
Does that kind of upset you that this information is out there, and as parents, we didn't know it?
Oh, absolutely. It infuriated me when I started researching it and put in, you know, did a Google search on sudden cardiac arrest in youth and all these things that popped up. And I was like, why do we not know about this? Why, you know, I thought I was doing all the right things. I thought, you know, taking my kids to the doctors yearly, getting their vaccinations, going to the dentist, I mean, all of it, right? I was on top of it, and I thought I was doing all the right things. And realizing that a simple EKG or an echo could possibly have saved my son infuriates me. And that's what motivates me, right? Because I don't want somebody else to go through that. And I knew, I didn't know, a lot of parents didn't know. And it's insane to me that we don't know more about this.
And that we're not, like, if we know, like, if the powers that be know this information, why are we letting money or whatever politics keep us from saving kids' lives? Because if 7,000 kids a year are dying from this,
yeah,
those kids, it's worth it to me. My child's worth it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know. It drives me crazy when you hear well, it's rare. Well, if it's your child, it's not rare.
Right.
No.
And 7,000 kids, that's not rare.
No.
And what I always heard about sudden cardiac arrest previously was that it would happen during sports, right? Mm-hmm. But now I'm finding so many times that it's not even just during the athletic sports play. You know, it's happening at home. It's happening when they're asleep. It's happening in the bathroom.
Yeah. No, it's, yeah. I mean, we've had a couple kids locally that have passed, that I found, like, the video clips from the news stories. And it was like, oh yeah, they collapsed, but it was like nothing like nothing said about cardiac arrest, nothing about that. It's like, but before, when I would see it before that happened, I'm like, oh, that's so sad. And you just kind of move on. But it's like, why these kids are literally collapsing. Like, why are we not doing anything about it? And it's mind blowing to me that, and even that there's some doctors that think it's rare that we should be doing what we're doing, which is hard because, they're the medical experts. People are going to listen to them, right? They're not going to listen to a grieving mom,
Right. Right.
They're going to listen to somebody that's got the medically trained, but I don't know. I'm not going to stop. So, and I know you're not going to either. So,
Yeah. If you could say one thing to parents out there who look at their kid and they say, my kid looks healthy. I don't have anything to be worried about.
Mm-hmm.
He's been playing sports his whole life, so she's not talking to me.
Yeah, I would say I thought the same thing. Kyle was a healthy 18, almost 19-year-old man who was took care of himself. He ate right. He, went to the gym. He worked out. He did all the things that you're supposed to do, and that wasn't enough. So, I tell parents to tell Kyle's story, or, I can share thousands of other stories of people who thought the same thing, that our children were healthy. And just because they look healthy doesn't mean that they are. And that's one of the things that even like with everything going on now, people are like, oh, I'm healthy. I don't need to wear a mask. Or I don't need to do that. And it's like, but people are going to do what they're going to do. But yeah, I just tell parents, it doesn't hurt just to get your child checked out. It's a non-invasive, an EKG or an echo, just get them checked out. And if your doctor doesn't want to do it, change doctors. Find a doctor, keep pushing until you find a doctor that will do it for you. If, or come to us, go find a screening in your community if there are any,
Coronavirus is showing us it's better to know what's going on with your body so that you can deal with it. Now they're showing that there's a link between coronavirus or COVID-19 and cardiac arrest.
Yeah.
So people need to be even more vigilant and aware of how to respond in the case that, someone does go unconscious or lose consciousness or their heart stops. With being prepared to offer CPR and, call 911, just not to be caught off guard,
Absolutely. Totally. Yeah. Yeah. And I think a lot of parents think, oh, well, my kid just got a physical. I've had people say that to me too. Oh, well, my kid just had a physical. It's like the stethoscope doesn't, just because they listen to their heart, that doesn't find things, and that's still another mind blowing thing to me. How are we using 200-year-old technology, which I just blows my mind. We change cell phones every 2 years, but we're using 200-year-old technology to listen to somebody's heart. I don't get that, but we just got to keep moving and hopefully get it changed. So.
Right. And now with this coronavirus pandemic, now they're not even going to really get the physical next year. A lot of states are waiving the requirements for the physical for kids next year. So not only are they not going to get the 200-year-old technology that doesn't really catch it, now you're not going to really get anything. So,
yeah.
But it's up to us as parents and individuals to request the testing, go in and ask for an EKG. It's a simple procedure. It just takes a few minutes, or find a local agency in your area that will be providing heart screenings. Now talk about that a little bit though, Jennifer. How do you see us moving forward with heart screenings with control?
Yeah. We've talked about that. I mean, we had one that we were supposed to have in March that we had to postpone, and we've talked about just doing a smaller scale. Even if we only get to screen 10 kids or 20 kids, it'll be better than nothing. So we've talked about just doing a smaller scale where you just bring in smaller, groups of kids at a time. I know some of our high schools here, they bring in doctors to do the physicals to hurry up and sign the form that they need, maybe piggyback on one of those. So we're trying to figure that out. We have some that are coming up in August and September, or even just, spreading the kids out and, that kind of thing. But,
and is temperature check now going to be a part of it?
I think we're going to do that for sure. Yeah. Have the no touch thermometer things, and have PPE for all of our volunteers, face masks, gloves, the whole thing, which we already had gloves and we had the hand sanitizers already, but now we're going to add the masks part as well. And and, maybe even to the kids, that are there. But we're not going to stop them. We're just going to maybe have to alter them a little bit, but we'll figure it out. So, yeah. I think the other thing I would say too to parents is talk to your kids about the symptoms, and it's okay to be your own advocate for your own health, right? It's okay to speak up about, I don't feel right, say that. And because I know a lot of kids are worried that they're going to be pulled off a team or not be able to play, or a lot of those things. And kids just need to be their own advocate, because nobody knows how they're feeling but them, and so that's another thing I've told parents a lot. Just talk to your kids, that it's okay to bring something up, and even let's find out that it's nothing, as opposed to not doing anything and finding out it's something serious and before it's too late, kind of thing,
Or find out that it's something and you get to get it fixed than keep your kid here with you. I'd much rather have my son, have Damani here, not able to play sports, but able to live and still live a full life.
Yeah.
And then there's so many cases that kids have found that they have a condition and then they're able to get it corrected and still play sports.
Right.
It's not, it doesn't mean that you won't be able to play sports again.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Or the parents go, well, the false positives on heart screenings and stuff. And it's like, I'm sorry, I would have rather gone through a little bit of that stress of thinking my son had something to find out that he was fine than what happened to us. So I was a single mom. I got divorced when Kyle was 4. And so it was the 3 of us. It was Kyle and his sister and myself for about 5 years before I met my husband when Kyle was 9. And Kyle kind of took the man of the house role very seriously at a very young age, because he knew he was very protective of his sister and I. And even after my husband came into the picture and, we eventually got married, Kyle was just that person. He just, I'd get texts from him, Mom, where are you? When you be home? Are you okay? And I was like, I'm at the grocery store. I'll be home in like 15 minutes, but that was just him. Like, he was very protective of us, and he took that role very seriously, which I feel bad that at a young age he felt that he needed to take that role, but he did, and he never complained about it. And so, that created a bond for us, I think, that we were very close. And I just think he never left without saying he loved me. So I take comfort knowing that the last words he said to me is that he loved me. I would have parents joke with me. Even at that awkward age of 13, I would drop Kyle off at a friend's house or something, and he'd go, I love you, Mom, and he'd give me a hug. And, the parent of the other kid would look at their kid like, why don't you do that? And I'd be like, I don't know. This is my kid. This is just what he does. I don't force him to do it. That's just what he does, And so I was always very thankful that he was very open with his emotions and, showing how he cared about people that were most important to him.
How's your daughter been able to deal with it? How's it?
Daughter?
Yeah.
She's doing okay. I mean, it happened in high school. She was in high school and went to the same high school as Kyle, and they're only 2 years apart, so they have a lot of the same friends and that kind of thing. So that was hard for her at first, to kind of go back and be the kid that lost her brother, stigma. But she has worked through it. She went to a grief counselor for a little bit. She has a friend who lost a parent at a young age, and so she's really dependent on her to talk to her about it, because I know her grief is different than mine. But she has her moments. She tries to keep it a little bit more private, and she's definitely gotten involved in our foundation quite a bit, and wants to be more involved in it. That took a little while too. I think she was a little overwhelmed by the whole thing, but we share a lot of funny stories about Kyle. He was the annoying brother to her, big brother, annoying the crap out of her or teasing her or whatever. And so I know she misses that, kind of thing, and having him kind of being her protector and guide and kind of guide in life. He was the one that was doing things first, going to college first, driving first, doing all those things first. And so she doesn't have that anymore, so I know that's been hard. But overall, she's doing great in school now, in college. She's just finished her freshman year and she's working, and so she's just moving forward, I think. Yeah. he was studying business and wanted to eventually go into real estate. But he talked a lot about being a family guy. Like he couldn't wait to be a dad and get married and be involved with his kids. I remember having a conversation in the car one day, we were talking about that. And he was like, yeah, Mom, I'm going to be at their baseball games. I'm going to coach, do all those things. And I was like, that's awesome, Kyle. That's great. And so he wanted to travel a lot. He was always up for wanting to go and adventure new places, adventure and discover new things. And I always admired that about him. And he was adventurous. Sometimes he would give me a heart attack on some of the adventures he did, but jumping off cliffs or jumping off a cliff in the ocean or those kinds of things. And I wouldn't find out about it after the fact, but I always admired that about him. He was always up to go do something, with his friends or just even on his own, go for a drive and just go exploring in the hills, where we live and that kind of thing. So
what has that taught you about like just control in life? Because I know that taught me a lot. I used to always tell Damani, be careful, be safe, don't do this, don't do that. And then to now look at all of the things that I tried to control. And then for something as simple as his heart stopping like that.
Yep. Yeah. That was one of the last things I said to Kyle when he walked out the door that day. I said, I love you too. Be safe, have fun, And I was worried that day where he was driving, it's a pretty windy road. And I was worried about him making it safely over there, and same thing. I had the app on my phone where I could track where he was, make sure he got there okay, the whole thing. And it didn't matter. It didn't matter. It didn't, it's definitely, you feel like you're out of control. You feel like, I know at points I have felt like what did I do wrong as a mom? How did I miss it? I'm his mom. I'm supposed to know these things. I'm supposed to have this innate knowing that there's something wrong with his heart or something. And so I've played the what ifs in my head a lot. But it's definitely made me realize that we really don't have any control of anything that happens. And that's kind of scary, especially when it comes to your kids, but he's also taught me to live life to the fullest, whatever amount of time I have left here.
Yeah. Because when you describe him, that's what I see, he lived full of love, he never missed an opportunity to tell you that he loved you. And sometimes when I hear the stories of, some of the children who have moved on, it's almost like they were so loving. They almost had this innate sense that they wouldn't be here long. And so they made the most out of every moment with the people that they loved.
Yeah. Well, yeah, totally. And one of Kyle's mottos he actually had on his Twitter account under his name, it says, life only happens once in a lifetime. And so we've actually used that on some things that we use for the foundation. And actually one of his friends got it. Some of his friends got memorial tattoos in honor of Kyle. And one of his friends actually has that tattooed on him.
Say it again. How Kyle lived. What is it? What did it say?
Life only happens once in a lifetime. And that's how he lived. That's exactly how he lived. He, never missed an opportunity to, go surfing or do the things that he loved to do. He didn't sit very long, he'd be out the door doing something. So I'm thankful now knowing what I know that he did do all those things. He wasn't just sitting, at home doing nothing. He was out doing things and but there's a lot of things he never got the opportunity. Like I said, he wanted to travel. We were actually supposed to go to Europe that summer for the first time ever. And, he was super excited about that. And, we didn't get that opportunity. And so that's motivate me that eventually we will do those things that he didn't get the opportunity to do, for him.
Yeah, absolutely. With CPR awareness, do you ever think like if he had gotten it in that first 15 minutes that possibly things could have been different?
Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And I wish he would have said something to his friends like, hey, I don't feel well before he went to the bathroom or, something like where they would have like realized it. But, and the not knowing part of exactly what happened or how he felt or how long it took, all those things like just tear at me, not knowing or not being there to help him.
Yeah.
So hard, right? It's so hard because then you think, well, what if this, what if that, and then I think, well, God, I wish he would have been home so his friends, didn't have to experience that, right? I know that that's been very
Oh my
traumatic for his
gosh.
friends that were there with him, you know, and he was with friends that he's been friends with his entire life, you know, and um, but then, you know, but then I'm like, okay, well, at least he was happy. He was with his friends. Like that was one of his happiest things to be doing, was being with his buddies. So then
Yeah,
that brings me peace that he was with them, you know, that he wasn't just alone in his room or something. So yeah, the what ifs and the questioning it can be all consuming sometimes, you know, and sometimes you just have to, like you said, just let it go. And maybe it's a way of protecting us that we don't know the details.
maybe. For me, I don't know about you, but support has not been that great
Yeah.
from people that I would have expected to be there for me. If it wasn't for
Yeah.
other grieving moms like you and people in our group, I don't know how I would have gotten this far.
Yeah, it's that's another sad reality of it, right? Is the people that you think will be there for you or not, and then the people that you don't least expect it. You know, we've had that too, where that you very least expect it, like, you know, have jumped in and wanted to help. But yeah, that's, you know, that's another layer of the grief thing, right? Is that um but yeah, for sure. It definitely, you know, connecting with you and all the other people, or the, you know, all the people from Parent Heart Watch, that has been a lifesaver for us, just to know that we're not alone this whole thing, you know. And because, you know, I do have friends who um have you know, lost children to cancer or car accidents or, you know, suicide, which is horrible and sad. But I didn't know anybody that lost anybody to cardiac arrest. And it wasn't until you start asking around, it's like, oh yeah, I had a cousin, or oh, I had this person. And it's like, wait, what? Why is this? Why did I not hear about this? You know?
Mm-hmm.
So connecting with people that lost kids to the same thing and sharing our stories definitely has been helpful for me.